And in understanding your intention for being in a job position, you can be more vocal and communicate better with your seniors and with your peers.
Okay.
So it creates a more cohesive team. And if your employees are more cohesive, it always affects the bottom line. The company's output improves.
Okay.
So employee satisfaction is really an important part of running a successful business.
I'm Kristin Andree, founder and chief strategist of Andree Consulting Group. I founded my company almost 10 years ago because I love helping people not only succeed, but thrive in their careers and their lives. So many times I meet amazing people who have so much more potential than what they're utilizing. As I engage with them, there seems to be a common theme: the limits they place on themselves. Throughout this podcast series, we're going to visit some incredible people who have created more intentional lives for themselves, those who've had that no limits moment where they chose to grow and they put things in motion to help them do so. We'll focus on how you can break through limits, we'll equip you with strategies to help you lead a more intentional life, and we'll have a lot of fun along the way. So let's dive in. Hi, everyone, and welcome to No Limits with Kristin Andree. We are here today with Brent Feinberg, who is the founder of With Love from Freddie, and also the corporate division, Freddie, Innovate. So I'm excited to have you here. I was checking out some of your books earlier when they were showing me. So tell me, before we get into kind of the work you guys are doing on With Love from Freddie, tell me a little bit about your background, because you have a very interesting background. You didn't start out as an author.
Yes, great. Thanks, Kristin, for having me on the show today.
Oh, you're welcome. And of course, everybody's listening. You're also from South Africa.
Yes,
so we get to
is
enjoy
correct.
the very cool accent, which I appreciate. So go ahead. So tell us how you got into what you're doing.
So I grew up in South Africa. Growing up, I was exposed to a variety of different and inspiring people, like Nelson Mandela, Nkosi Biko, Steve Biko's son, as well as many Holocaust survivors.
Oh, wow.
And this was all due to my mom's work in the nonprofit world, as well as after this, later on, she started an organization called the Tomorrow Trust, which did education for orphans and vulnerable children.
Okay.
So my background was working with people to let go of stress in order for them to focus on living the best life that they could possibly do.
Right.
And I was working with the at-risk students in the foundation. And when I was in Bali, I was studying to become a yoga teacher. And that's when I decided I'd write a children's book to raise awareness and funds for this foundation.
Okay. So that's how you wrote your first book, was just honestly as a way to give back.
Yeah.
Yeah. So tell me about the book.
So the storybook is called Freeing Freddie the Dreamweaver, and it's about a boy named Freddie who lives in a magical rainforest, and one day he stumbles and falls and becomes entangled in a spider web. He's trapped, he's terrified, and this big spider approaches him.
Oh.
And he turns out to be really wise and friendly. His name's Mr. Cotton, and he teaches Freddie that the web he's trapped in represents his fears in life, and that if he chooses to, he can let go of the web of fears and build a new web for himself, the web of his dreams. And he takes him on a journey of how to do this.
So it's unlike most, I mean, a lot of children's books that you read, I have children, and the books I've read them over the years, not a lot of them have deep lessons or things to take out of them. So what made you want to teach that?
So for me, I've always felt like children are underplayed in the amount that they understand and how great their awareness is.
Okay.
I've found in working with young clients as well as adults that a lot of the really simple life teachings that create happiness in our lives, children get quite easily, whereas adults struggle with. So if we can teach these lessons to kids at a young age, they can really thrive as adults.
What lessons do you feel like, what are you teaching them? I mean, so what are the kids getting that you think the adults are missing or maybe have forgotten?
So a big thing that the book deals with is fear. What is fear? How do we let go of it?
Okay.
And in speaking about this, the first thing that we must address is that fear is normal.
Yep.
We all have fears, right?
Sure.
I've had fear. I do have fears. So do you.
Yep.
So if kids can see that, then it becomes normal. There's nothing to be ashamed of.
Okay.
Once you know what your fear is, then you can begin to address it instead of putting it in a closet. The thing with fear is we have so many different little fears that build up in our minds, and they actually store physically in the body as a chemical response. So if not dealt with, they compound. They sit there, and we become more and more tense as people as we get older.
And it's definitely more prevalent in adults, the tenseness and just being overly stressed.
Because children are more joyful, and then all these emotions build up in the system, and by the time you're an adult, you're just very tense. So if we can give children ways to process this better, they can stay more joyful, more focused adults. The next thing is living life with intention. Intention is the reason why we are doing something. The impetus behind our actions. So if you go to college, if you get a job, why are you doing that? Why are you studying that course? There has to be another reason other than for survival, just the paycheck. And it's got to do with passion and purpose and your goals and your dreams. So we connect all these things.
When do you think people stop being intentional and connecting their passion? Because I see that more, in kids, and they know what they're excited about. And I know it changes, obviously, as they get older, because you go to college, and, some people go to college knowing exactly what they want to study, and they have a true passion around it. My oldest is in college, and she wants to go into environmental policy and law. And I mean, she literally can sit there and talk about humans' effects on the environment passionately for hours, and about soil and water and the oceans. And she's got such passion behind it. So I love that, because that's she's very intentional about the courses she takes and what she wants to do with her life, which I'm super proud of. But for a lot of people, I think it's the opposite. I think they just go to school, get a job. So where do they lose that?
Yes, that is wonderful that she's able to have that. I don't know if all people lose it. A lot never had it to begin with.
Okay.
Like we found that children from underprivileged backgrounds, for instance, are never taught to dream. They don't believe in themselves or the fact that they can have a dream and achieve it.
And that's who your foundation was targeting, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
And then other children from affluent backgrounds often get stuck into the mold of, my parents told me I'm going to go do finance at this Ivy League college, and I better work my butt off to get in. And they never stop to think hold on, what do I want? What drives my heart and my passion in life?
Okay.
And like you said, dreams change. And then 60-year-olds sometimes stop dreaming. I mean, your life's far from over at that age. And if you stop dreaming and stop striving towards that, then you stagnate, and you stop living life with complete involvement.
So the book kind of helps the kids work through that, think through that.
Yes. Okay. And a lot of this is just about bringing awareness to it, and then you can really engage with it.
So what happens after the intentionality piece? Where do they go from there?
Then we deal with challenges, how to view life's challenges from a positive perspective.
Okay.
So we all have challenges in life. The difference between those that are successful and happy is that you see your challenges as a way to learn and grow. Our challenges can soften and strengthen us. Soften is all about the heart, teaching us understanding and compassion. Until you've been through a difficult time, you can't really empathize with someone else going through a similar situation. And the other thing is strengthen. Our challenges give us resilience, the ability to bounce back, to think to ourselves, look at all that I've accomplished and overcome, surmounted. So when new challenges arise, you're like, right, I know this is difficult, but I'm going to get through. I'm going to get through stronger, more compassionate, more loving. And if we can approach the difficult times that we have in life with this perspective, then the good times are even better.
Yeah. And then, so the book is kind of walking the kids through each of these steps.
Yes, that's correct.
Very, very neat. I like that. So what have you guys done? Well, there's more. There's another step after that, right? Overcoming the challenges. There was something. What happened after that?
Yeah, so we deal with how we are all interconnected as a world, that by helping others to realize their dreams, we get closer to our own. And lastly, the book talks about dreams. Okay. Taking your fears and turning them into your dreams.
Do you feel like the interconnectivity is because I'm curious because you've lived in different countries and visited different countries. I feel like here in the States, that's a big miss. I feel like we aren't as interconnected as we should be. And I don't know if it's because people are too rushed or too hurried or trying to check too much off the list. But do you see that? I mean, how do we here? Because you've been here a while now and been various places. Are we missing the boat on that?
I think all over the world, people are missing this in a big way.
Okay.
At the end of the day, we're one human species, and this can be checked out on the level of DNA. Other animals, there are loads of different species, but as human beings, there's only one. So that's, I think, important thing to remember. The differences that we have, skin tone, culture, all these different things are minuscule in terms of the similarities we actually have.
I agree.
And I think people place so much focus on the differences, whereas I want to focus on how are we the same?
Yep.
How our emotions are the same. We experience the same emotions. Our minds can be shaped in a similar way. And that we all have this beautiful light within us, that we can all share love, share joy, be compassionate.
Right. And I feel like that is an opportunity a lot. Because like you said, if we can help other people realize their dreams and with their dreams, it helps us with ours. And it's just the feel-good piece too.
Yeah, we live in, our environment is an ecosystem. The world, everything's connected. So if you're happy, if you're joyful, if you're living your purpose, your passion, it's going to benefit me. If I'm putting you down to rise to the top of the ladder, I'm actually biting off my own fingers in the process.
Yeah. Okay. So with what you guys have built and created, what do you feel? What's been the most exciting piece of it? Like what have you gotten the most joy from?
Definitely connecting with people in such a deep and meaningful way. Okay. Whether it's top CEOs and managers in companies, as well as teachers and students. Okay. After we engage with them with whatever work we bring to them, it's always smiles. It's tears of letting go of tough things in the past and bringing hope to people. People feel hopeful and inspired. So it's wonderful to really connect and bring the best out in each individual that we are able to connect with.
Okay, so let's talk about the book for a minute, because I know you do a lot of work with corporations, which we'll get into, but what you're trying to take or have started to actually bring this into school systems to help. So what work are y'all doing? What are you really trying to do? What's next level for you guys?
Yes, so we're working with a few different school districts, and we've taken the book, which comes with a workbook for teenagers and adults, and an activity book for younger kids, ages 5 to 10. Okay. And we've turned that into a curriculum, which can be expanded into a nice 9-class lesson plan.
And it walks through those stages that you mentioned.
Yes, and what schools are finding, and the big hype thing is social and emotional learning. Okay. That the academics are there, but what we need to raise in the children now is this emotional intelligence. So this really works well with that.
Are schools embracing this? Because I know with my own kids, it's been difficult to watch the rigor of what they're trying to teach them academically. And I agree with you, there's nothing that they're learning to cope emotionally with the stressors. I mean, to take away the stressors at home and family and all that, just the academic rigors that these kids are going through, it's insane. So are school systems embracing it?
Yes, so all the feedback we've had has been incredibly positive. And the few schools and systems that we've worked with are really enjoying the materials.
Very nice. Okay.
And this has just been the beginning for us. So in time, we'd like to work with more and more schools, nationally and internationally.
I think that'd be hugely needed, because I'm sitting there thinking the emotional intelligence piece is just, it's missing, and it's a skill that I think people are growing up and not having. So we're going to pause and take a short break, and when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit more about how Freddie Innovate is working with companies and the grown-ups out there to help them with these same issues. We'll be back in just a minute. Hey everyone, it's Kristin. Be sure and visit my website at www.andreegroup.com. That's www.andreegroup.com. And while you're there, be sure to download my white paper, Top 10 Reasons Your Business Isn't Growing Fast Enough. Now get out there and create your no limits moment. Hi, everyone, and welcome back to No Limits with Kristin Andree. We are here today with Brent Feinberg of With Love from Freddie. And so we were talking about your books beforehand, and kind of they just have a cool factor to me. I think it's just something that for kids, especially, we were talking about work in the school district, helping them with emotional intelligence, thinking through intentionality and all that stuff. But there's a bigger play with the grown-ups too, because I think, having worked in the corporate environment for years, I have a background in finance, so it is a dry corporate environment. Everybody's very driven, very overachievers, highly, highly stressed. We don't tend to talk about the emotional component, the EQ of what's going on. So how are you guys, because I know we've talked about your work in the school districts, but you guys do a lot of work with corporations too.
Yes, so our corporate arm is called Freddie Innovate, and we have a website, freddieinnovate.com.
Okay, awesome.
Yes, so people working in corporates probably see those people at work possibly more than they do their families.
Yes.
So how your relationships are within the workplace is very important to your personal happiness. What we do is bring the same topics that we teach to children, to adults, just in a more in-depth and greater way.
Okay.
Adults are also dealing with fear. How do you live without fears? Your fears are just different. Intention. What is your intention in being in that work environment? How do you communicate with others in that place?
Okay.
What is your intention in being in that job? These are some things that a lot of people might not have thought of before, and can change.
So when you're working with them, with the companies, are you coming across people like we talked about earlier that are just kind of in a job but don't really want to be there? Is that where you're getting into the intention piece? I mean, how many people truly are intentional about their jobs or their career choice?
So I think even if people do want to be there, when you start becoming aware of exactly why you are there, and knowing what your desires are, then you become educated in your choices that are available to yourself, instead of just reacting to life. So then you can become more responsive. And in understanding your intention for being in a job position, you can be more vocal and communicate better with your seniors and with your peers.
Okay.
So it creates a more cohesive team. And if your employees are more cohesive, it always affects the bottom line. The company's output improves.
Okay.
So employee satisfaction is really an important part of running a successful business.
And if they're not satisfied, like if you've got somebody who's not content with what they're doing, not intentional, and doesn't understand their purpose for being there, I would assume that permeates a lot into their personal lives as well. So do you guys help with that, or is it more just focused on the business?
So we do focus on the business and how that person fits better into that team.
Okay.
As well as working with what are your goals, what are your dreams, what is your vision for this business.
Right.
So relating back to the fears, a lot of people have found, and there are many articles and studies around it, that when you are in fear, you are risk adverse. So employees of companies aren't pushing the boundaries of what can possibly be achieved because they're scared of what might happen if they step a little bit outside of the box.
That makes perfect sense, though. It really does, because I think when people are fearful, it would cause them to kind of retract a little bit and not want to move the envelope. So how do you work with them on that? How do you get them past that?
So we give them different tools to let go of fears, as well as to show them how different actions can take them through the threshold of fear.
Okay.
That often your fear seems bigger in your mind, and that's where it's sitting. And when you can start taking actions to overcome these fears every day, then they no longer hold you back in achieving your goals and your dreams.
Okay. I like, what types of companies are you guys seeing?
So we've worked with a few consulting companies,
Okay.
with one or two of the big banks in Atlanta in the US.
Okay.
Because at the end of the day, we're working with people.
Yeah.
For me, my focus is that every company is filled with human beings.
Yeah.
And that these people have emotions and minds and desires and dreams and fears. So we can work with people in any place.
So it's interesting that you mentioned, the consulting and the banks, because those to me seem like they tend to attract, those industries tend to attract a little bit more type A, very busy, high pressure, high stress. So I could see the need for it. Are they embracing of looking at addressing their fears and looking at the emotional side of the business?
Yes, I think it's actually been quite wonderful, the response. The bank we've been working with, their intention is to be a community bank, to serve the people. So that's been quite a good bridge of understanding.
Yeah, absolutely. Because the more they serve themselves and understand their fears, it helps translate to the business. And honestly, from a business standpoint, I would think the bottom line too. They're able to get a little bit more, business out of it because they're addressing those issues. Okay. All right. So what's next for you guys? You've got the schools, you've got the businesses. I mean, you're covering a lot of ground.
Yeah. So in the US, this is all new. So we're just trying to work with more companies, more school districts. This is the first set of books in what is going to be a series. So the second book, workbook and activity book, have already been released in South Africa.
Okay.
And we'll look to release that and develop curriculum and workshops around it. And I'm busy working on the third book and a screenplay for all of these things too.
Really? Okay. That's kind of interesting. So I love it. We'll post the links to everything because you guys that are watching on live stream can see. Kind of got some of the books. Let me grab one. Am I pulling it out of the way here? There we go. There you go. Freeing Freddie and you've got the workbook that goes with it. But and we'll post the links for those of you guys just listening on iTunes. But it's I think this is you're onto something that just hasn't been addressed. I mean, to your knowledge, do you know anyone else that's really diving into the fear piece and the intentionality piece and the goal setting?
Not
in all generation, kids to adults?
Not in the way that we are doing it. We feel like we haven't seen this out there.
Okay. Yeah. So what you've got a lot of things that are next. I'm looking at the back of the book. So your endorsements are by Deepak Chopra and Russell Simmons. So you've got a couple big names backing this here.
Yeah. I mean, their support means a great deal. And I think they both dedicated to uplifting societies around them. And they saw that we doing the same thing. So we're happy to give their vote of support.
Right. And leading people to their best self, I feel like is a huge opportunity. So what has been, out of the people you've had the opportunity to work with, what's been the most rewarding? Like, what is there a single person or group that stands out to you where you just saw just transformational change?
So what comes to mind, I mean, there's so many stories, and I receive letters and emails all the time. But what pops to my mind now is I was at a school in North Carolina in Greensboro, and after speaking to the kids, this was a group of elementary students, the one boy had drawn me a picture, I think he was 9 years old, of the cover of the book of Freddie and Mr. Cotton.
Okay.
Just
You
like
can see
this
that,
one.
yeah.
And it was so good. And he said, "Thanks so much for coming. You've inspired me." And I was just beaming. I was smiling from ear to ear. And for me,
so
that
cool.
was just an affirmation of like, this is why I'm doing this.
Yeah.
Of course, the dream for me is to reach as many kids and people as possible. But I always remember that every life, every person is incredibly important. So this one example really drove that home for me.
That's a big example too, because it as small as a picture sounds, that just shows that he heard you and listened and was engaged, which a 9-year-old kid is hard to keep engaged. There are not a lot of people that can come in and talk to a group of elementary kids and captivate their attention for long, much less, drawing a picture. I think that's kind of cool. Do you still have the picture?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I've started a file now of the great things that kids have given me.
Do you feel like the kids show more gratitude in the learning than the adults?
No, I think it's been equally well received.
Okay. I just didn't know if sometimes as grown-ups, I'm not like this, but I feel like a lot of people are hesitant to shower gratitude. I think kids do it more freely and naturally. Where adults are like, "Thanks, that was great." Where a kid's like, "I drew you a picture in this." They really get engaged.
Yeah,
in
no
the work
adults
you're doing.
have drawn me any
Nobody's
pictures
drawn
yet.
you a picture.
Yeah.
All right, that's the challenge of my listening. So we'll have Brent come to your company and speak, and we're going to see the first one that draws him a picture. So very cool. All right, so we're going to take another short break. When we come back, we're going to tie this all together and talk about how you can have a little bit more intentionality in your life and get over some fears that you might have. So we'll be back in just a second. Everyone, check out my podcast, No Limits with Kristin and Andree, on Tuesday nights at 7:30. We will tackle the things holding you back and the limits you set on yourself and equip you with some strategies to lead more intentional lives. Podcast launches every Tuesday at 7:30 p.m. on facebook.com/Andree Group. That's facebook.com/ANDREE Group. We'll see you there. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to No Limits with Kristin and Andree. We are wrapping up our time with Brent Feinberg and of With Love from Freddie. So this has been interesting learning more about the books and the work you guys are doing in the schools and with corporations. So I want to make a push to get you into my kids' schools because I'm thinking this is some good stuff for them to hear. So I appreciate you sharing the story. I love the fact that it came from such a genuine place and wanting to help people and kind of giving back to the foundation, everything you guys had set up. So it seems like you are the type of person with kind of the spirit of giving, like the give back type of thing. Is that where you get your energy?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. So every episode, we issue a challenge to our listeners and try to, because what we want them to do is make sure they're not just listening to another podcast and then going about their day. We want to make sure they have something they can do to take everything we talked about and everything they learned today and improve themselves, the world, the people around them. So we were talking a little bit during the break. What challenge should we issue to the listeners this week?
I thought a great one would be to express gratitude or love to 3 people in your life. And It can be done in any way. You can write them a letter, maybe
draw them a picture for the speaker at your school. Okay. Yeah. So how do you see gratitude? So I think letters are good. Words are always good, words of affirmation. But there's a lot of ways people can show love and gratitude.
Yeah, making someone a cup of tea and being like,
I love the cup of tea part. That's the
yeah,
South Africa
South
part.
Africa was a British colony, so a lot of us
That's
drink
right,
tea.
the tea. I think a lot of people drink tea. We're in Georgia, so it's sweet tea. I don't know if you've been introduced to that yet, but no? Oh goodness, we're gonna have to work on this. So Georgia, it's all about sweet tea. It is nothing like a cup of tea. It is basically sugar in a cup. Is kind of what it is. It might scare you a little bit, but back to the gratitude thing. So we're, 3 people, and this is something I feel like people can make a habit, though. I mean, start with 3. I agree with you, but what do you feel like that will do? What ripple effect can that have? Because I know you talked about connectivity and how we're all connected. So talk about gratitude for a minute in terms of not just the person you're showing gratitude for or to, but the effect it has on others.
So when we feel grateful, it's not possible to feel any negative emotion, anger, sadness, grief. So if we close our eyes and we think about something we're incredibly grateful for, it might even be the food in front of us. A burger, a milkshake, whatever, just food in general, or a person in our lives. This immediately uplifts our spirits and creates a chemical response in the body that's positive. So if every night you go to bed and before you do, you think of 5 things that you're really grateful for. The roof over your head, I'm just giving generic examples. Sure. It starts to repattern the story that your mind tells your body, that you tell yourself. And in time, if you constantly do this, this becomes your programming, your software, and it's a really great way to be.
I like how you're saying that because I never really paused to think about that, but if you are thinking grateful thoughts, you can't be fearful or negative or sad or depressed. I mean, it's the polar opposite. You can't really have 2 thoughts in your head at once. Okay. So expressing that gratitude to others and showing gratitude to others, I think for at least that brief moment when you're doing that, that's got to squish out any negative thoughts they have in their head as well.
And it can improve your relationships. A lot of times people don't know that you're grateful or that you feel love or compassion for them. Sometimes we just assume that.
I think we take that for granted a lot. I think we feel like we're being, it's almost like we assume people know that we care for them or that we're grateful for them or that they're important to us. So I love that, just showing love and gratitude towards 3 people. I think it's a great challenge. I like it. All right, so I want to make sure you guys know where you can find Brent and his work. So all over social media, you said you were at With Freddie, at With Love from Freddie, Facebook and Instagram. And then the website is withlovefromfreddie.com. And on the corporate side, it's Freddie Innovate without the S, FreddieInnovate.com. Perfect. So let's make sure you guys go show Brent some love. Make sure you check out what he's doing. Check out the books. I can't wait to run through them with my kiddos and see what they come up with. So thank you so much for being on the show. Truly, truly appreciate it. Best of luck, and I will look forward to seeing that next book.
Great. Thank you so much for having me on the show, Kristin.
Awesome. Well, you guys, until next week, keep pushing past those limits and get out there and show a little love and gratitude to 3 people. Talk to you soon.